Hey, I finished yet another book about orgone energy. I got interested in this because I've got this orgonite pyramid is against EMF radiation. But actually, it turns negative energy into positive. And Wilhelm Reich, in this book, The Function of the Orgasm, that's where the orgone comes from, he built a orgone accumulator box with metal and wood and quartz, and that could produce or accumulate orgone energy in the body, and people would be cured with it. He succeeded in treating many neurosis suffering patients with it, unlike Freud, who was still stuck in his superego stories. But as a consequence, his lab got raided by the police. All his equipment was confiscated and destroyed. He got fined, followed by 2 years imprisonment. That was in the 50s. And the constant slanderous assaults upon his person were designed to discredit him and thereby intended to divert attention from his significant discoveries. He was killed in 1957, just before his release from prison, in order for his knowledge to stay hidden from the public. Since Reich's death, there has fortunately been an insistent demand for his writings, and that's why I was very much interested in it. Society withholds this vital information about a total reset of the body's energy field through orgone energy, where the orgasm lends its name from. The female orgasm I would describe as waves of energy-filled pleasure. It's an electrical discharge in the fluids of the vagina. The body temperature increases, as does the heartbeat, and the blood vessels dilate. Nerve endings in the stimulated erogenous zones get sensitive and positively laden with orgone energy. During orgasm, the full body has this energetic energy ramped up to a point of such intensity that it has the power to create new life. The sperm fertilizing an egg is the energy exchange between the two partners. The electrical discharge is a full body experience extending into the biofield and synchronizes its frequencies. So this creates a balance of energies, and in doing so gives a feeling of total bliss and peace. Any disturbance or inhibition of this orgastic gratification causes a blockage of this energy, resulting in neurosis and disease. Anxiety, as the basic direction opposed of that of sexuality, can be a result of sexual inhibition, and energy is withdrawn from the cells, as occurs in a process of dying. Pornography turns this extremely full body regenerating pleasure into a forceful and painful power game, where the dominant forces the subject into an involuntary submission during the aggressive sexual act. Feelings of hate, disgust, and emotional breakdown are very common in these sexual relations. Anxiety further causes sexual inhibition, representing life-negating functions. So when you make of sex an idol in your life, and if you let it control you as a form of self-gratification, you are sinning against your own body. Do not become a slave of your lusts, as it will destroy your body, mind, and soul. Liberation from unpleasure isn't necessarily pleasure. It is doing the right thing by walking in the spirit of self-control. Don't serve the flesh with your life. I wanted to say this also for this book, because this explains the function of the orgasm and how wonderfully we are made and created, but that is not to be abused or misused. And we live in a society where sexual perversion is everywhere. And so you have to be aware of honoring your body and not abusing it. And that gets me to masturbation. Masturbation in the early stages of self-exploration is no sin, while in many religious households fear is instilled in the children as if doing something clandestine. Fear, as described above, can become a factor in sexual inhibition and can cause problems later in life when the adult wants to consume marriage and isn't able to enjoy sexual pleasure without the guilt and shame attached to it. Psychotic patients, they show unhealthy ways of sexual desire, such as fantasies of rape, torture, anal penetration or having the nipples squeezed. Psychoanalysis became more and more difficult as the human character showed more emotional coldness and genital deadness. Man is the sole biological species that has destroyed its own natural sexual function and is sick as a consequence of this. He will never comprehend religious life, nor have the least insight into nature and culture, instinct and morality, sexuality and achievement. Nor, consequently, will he be able to grasp the sex-economic theory of disease. He will mistake sickness for health and health for sickness. He will end up misinterpreting man's fear of happiness. Well, according to Reich, the most potent men and women, the slower and more gentle the frictions are, the more synchronized, the more intense are the sensations of pleasure. Interruptions of the friction is in itself pleasurable because of the special sensations which attend this pause with begging desire, and the act is actually prolonged. When friction continues, the excitation increases beyond the level which had been previously attained. This presupposes a high degree of affinity between the partners. Thus, the process of sexual pleasure is a process of life. It's not by assumption, but it is an experimentally proven fact. Orgastic potency has the characteristic of the concentrating of affection on one partner who reciprocates this affection and sensuality. There's a genuine transference from the primal object to the partner. An exchange of bioelectricity in the union of the two sexes occurs at the orgasm, the electrical discharge, and then the equalization of energy between those two charges. Thus, sexuality is not the service of procreation. Rather, procreation is an incidental result of the tension charge process in the genitals. This may be depressing to champions of a eugenic moral philosophy, but it's nonetheless true. The division of the egg, like cell division in general, is an orgastic process. Hence, cell division follows the orgasm formula: tension, charge, discharge, and relaxation. Irrealistic fantasies can detract from this experience and are followed by disappointment. Sexual perversion is a destructive reaction to the frustration of a sexual need. This is a big source of decreased sexual gratification in marital conflict, but actually it's also outside of marriage, that's fornication. When frustrated, genital energies become destructive as the level of narcissism increases. And he talked about narcissism in the book, and this was a book written in the 70s, I think. But we see the term narcissist very often in these days because we live in Sodom and Gomorrah and everybody thinks me, and nobody else. And he says that is very destructive to human nature, of course. Have you noticed that our society creates social and sexual misery by design? You know, they ask questions like, should people with reduced potency be allowed to get married? This was one of the questions, exposing the confusion between love and lust. The human who chases after sexual gratification rather than love can easily become a sexual psychopath. Thus, according to Reich, all masochistic fantasies and attitude are part of every emotional illness. For these sexually frustrated, dysfunctional people, there is a possible relearning in orgasmotherapy, going back to gentler stimulus in order to increase the electrical charge. However, as negative attitudes reduce electrical reactions, it could leave the person desensitized. Most abandon treatment and will never get the benefits of potent orgone energy. However, many might benefit from a low-carb, high-protein diet, as bioelectricity is also produced in the process of combustion. In a carb-laden acidic state, less energy is released and less oxygen is introduced, thus less bioelectricity to excite the organism. This negatively affects the libido, as you might have guessed. Lifestyle is a major factor in a healthy body capable of generating the healing orgone energy to be fruitful and create new life. This makes orgone the energy of life. Hasn't our Creator made us wonderfully in His image? It keeps amazing me.